Oh, yeah, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. My name is Dr. Nate Noble. I'm a developmental behavioral pediatrician, clinical geneticist. If you are on an ADHD medication or you have a child on an ADHD medication, you're trying to figure out, do I need to take this? Can I quit this? Is there life on the other side of this? Welcome, because this is the podcast / live stream for you. Thank you for your time. Let's get to work. Okay. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the 6 reasons. Okay. The 6 reasons why I quit an ADHD medication. I did a long video on this. I'll show you the thumbnail for that in a minute, explaining the narrative on all the stuff I'm going to skip. Today, we're going to talk about 6 things, 6 reasons why I quit taking ADHD medicine. Then we're going to talk about, how I did it. Like, yeah, I'm a physician, so maybe I know a few things about these medicines that you don't, but I'm a firm believer in a reality where we don't have to take medicines if they prove to be ineffective or no longer are useful for us. So I'm going to talk to you about how I quit. And then lastly, I want to talk just briefly about how I live, right? Like, what is life on the other side of ADHD strategies that involve medications? What does that look like? And as you watch this live stream, you'll clearly see that maybe I should still be on a medicine, but that's the joie de vivre. That's the taste of life. That's what we're living. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Okay. So let me show you this. This is a thumbnail of a video I did maybe a year ago. Okay. And I've done several videos. I'll put a link in this video above, and I'll put it in the description below. But this was a video I did that, and I don't want to say viral because it's only got like 11,000 views. But when you go from only getting like 40 views to 11,000, it's kind of a thing, right? And this is a video that explains all about my journey, how I got out of medicine, why I took it, what I did with it, how it made me feel, a bunch of narrative, a bunch of time that's wasted, a bunch of music that you don't need. But this is what the video looks like. And this is why I wanted to do a follow-up video today, because I want to talk to you about why I quit in a condensed fashion. Now, if you have questions, put them up in the comments, and I'll respond to them as best I'm able. Or if this is on the upload, put them in the comments there, and I'll do my best to get back to you. Number one, why did I quit? Weight loss. Now, listen, some folks watching this might be like, weight loss? Sign me up, right? Maybe you're trying to get healthy, you're trying to make better choices. You've been battling, you've been battling some extra weight for some time, and this seems like an option. Certainly, that's not why we take ADHD medications, okay? But I quit this strategy because of weight loss, and I want to show you just a quick picture of myself. Like, this was me circa 2012, 2013. Okay. And I know you probably can't tell by just seeing my headshot here, but this was me 30 pounds ago. 30 pounds ago. Like, right, I'm 30 pounds heavier now than I was then. And that for me, with my frame, is healthy. Okay. There in that photo that you can see, I was not feeling good. It was a struggle for me to keep weight on. I'm taking a medicine. It might have been Vyvanse, might have been Concerta. I can't remember. I've been on a bunch of them. But these medications are potent in regards to the way they drive down our appetite. So you're in a workplace, your child's at school, which is their work day, and they're doing the best they can. But when you're on these medications and they're effective, okay, that's an important point I want to make. When a medication is effective, when there's effects, there's side effects, okay? And when you're taking an ADHD medication, traditionally a stimulant medication, if you don't know what I mean by stimulants and what I'm talking about, I'll link another video above that I've done. But when you're on medicines traditionally for ADHD, they drive down your appetite, okay? When the medicines work, you typically aren't hungry. As you can see in this photo, and I've alluded to earlier, I was never hungry. I mean, I didn't eat all day. And then I would come home and I'd be really, really hungry. And not only that, you're just kind of wiped out. You haven't eaten anything, and then you try to recuperate your calories. Then you're not exercising, right? And then I look like a scarecrow who woke up on the floor of a Banana Republic. And I was like, oh no, I'm a scarecrow in Banana Republic. I better put some clothes on and get out of here. And maybe that's great for you in your life. This is a story about why I quit. I didn't like feeling like I was unhealthy in regards to my weight. I was so low in my weight and felt so miserable because of it that it led me to quit. Let's talk about reason number 2, the crash. The crash. This is for real. This is how my days felt. Okay. I felt like a guy putting out a fire in this old junker car. Every day was like an abstract dumpster fire, right? I'd be doing good. I'd be getting stuff done. I'd be super motivated and effective and efficient and like, look at me do doctor stuff. I'm so effective. And then at the end of the day, I just would crash, right? Like the interior would catch on fire and everything would be bad. I'm on my way home. The medications are losing their effectiveness. And not only is my ability to focus and attend to tasks kind of tanking, but so is my interest in participating in this thing called life. I mean, I was going from one intense job, which is work, to another intense job, which is making sure that I'm fully present and available to participate and provide in an emotional sense with my family. Got 4 kids at home. They don't need to see dad rolling into the driveway at 5:30 in a Caprice Classic on fire, right? Nobody wants to see that. It's not a good look. So you either look like a scarecrow that woke up on the floor of a Banana Republic and needed to put some clothes on real quick, or you look like a scarecrow from Banana Republic who got caught up in a Caprice Classic that caught on fire, right? So I didn't like the weight loss. Okay. I didn't like the crash. And it's real. And I see this in kids. I see this in kids in the clinic all the time. About 3-4 o'clock, right? I tell families essentially what happens is the plane needs to land, right? The ADHD management, so the focus, the attention, all the things that we're trying to provide and allow for the child to be successful in the school day. You got to land the plane at some point, but what happens when the landing gear doesn't go down? Well, then you slam into the tarmac, you catch flames, you screech up to the gate, right? The good news is you got there. The bad news, you're on fire. So at some point along the journey, for me, I came to the conclusion that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Like this wasn't worth it to me, right? Now it wasn't a good fit. And again, if you want the narrative on how I got on these medicines and how I got through school, again, I'll link that whole narrative above. But suffice to say, the juice stopped being worth the squeeze for me, and I had to quit. I had to get off. Dependence. Let's talk about the next one. Dependence. I didn't like feeling like I was, in a sense, chained to a medication strategy. Now, do I prescribe these medications? Yes. I'm a huge fan of their benefit. Not only have I taken all these medicines, I prescribe all of them. Just because I came off of a medicine doesn't mean that I don't think they have a place for you or in the life of a child. I continue to prescribe them. I continue to get thank you letters from families all over the Midwest saying, thank you for helping us in this regard. Our child's able to make the anticipated progress and life dramatically improved. We treat impairment. If I put a child on an ADHD medication, if you're on an ADHD medication, chances are you're on it because you are impaired by this problem. Your life is not great without it, right? You're getting fired from jobs, your relationships are falling apart, you never show up anywhere on time, your shirts are always half tucked in. That's not a way to live. That's not a way to live. And I understand that maybe you're on a medication and it's beneficial for you. For me, I definitely had seasons in my life when that was true, right? When I had to sit and take tests or sit under fluorescent lights for 8 hours a day, or when you're starting a medical clinic or whatever it is for you, starting a new job, moving to a new city, whatever it is for you. Everybody has seasons where they're more impaired than other seasons. Okay. So if you're watching this video and you're wondering, how do I quit ADHD medications? Well, listen, there's a way to do it, but you got to figure out what season of life you're in. Okay. Now I was in a season where I felt like I could probably figure this out without the use of a medication. I didn't like feeling like I needed a pill bottle with me to help me get done the necessary things of life before a meeting or, in the morning to get going in the right direction, or at lunch, after lunch, need to take them in my pocket. I just didn't feel like that strategy was sustainable, right? I didn't like feeling that I was dependent on any kind of pharmacology to make progress. And again, as I've said earlier, to be fair, Just because you take these medicines doesn't mean you're struggling with this deep dependence. It doesn't mean you're addicted to these medications. Okay. I've answered this question multiple times on YouTube in the comment sections of other videos. Addiction and dependence are not the same thing. Okay. And so maybe I can do a whole video on that, but people can be dependent on a medication and struggle when you discontinue it. It doesn't mean you're addicted to it. It means your body habituated to it. It depended on the medication to provide a certain output. An example would be a blood pressure medicine. So you stop a blood pressure medicine, you get rebound hypertension, you get headaches. Does that mean you were addicted to that medication? No. It means your body had developed a dependence, and you're going to take a few steps back before you're able to get going forward again. Okay. So I quit a medication for ADHD, several medications, because I didn't like feeling like there was a chain that went from a pill bottle to my brain. Okay. Now, I'm not being critical of anybody who's on these medications. And as I've said many times, I prescribe these medications because I do think they're fantastic. But this is for those of you who are looking for a way off. You're looking for an off ramp. You're looking for another way forward. And you're wondering if there is a way to survive and thrive without an ADHD medication. And the point of this video is, yes, there is. Okay. Let's go on to our next reason. The next reason, let me show it to you this way, is irritability and excitability. Oh my goodness. Like it's one thing to be super focused. It's one thing to be like, man, that person's great. They're hyper focused. Look at all the things they get done. They got 18 windows up in their mind, and they're maximizing and minimizing, and they've got 4 arms and doing things. I mean, I respect that. Okay. And some people are wired that way. This guy's not one of them. All right. But it's one thing to be on track, but then when you're on track and all of a sudden when you're at your peak performance and all you're getting is this irritability, right? So somebody knocks on the door and it's not that you're just annoyed or frustrated. You're just viscerally angry, because you have a laser focus. Okay. You put it in front of me when I'm on an ADHD medicine, maybe you're listening, you're watching this, you're nodding while you're watching this. Somebody puts a task in front of you and you're like, boom, if it's a 1,000-piece puzzle, let's go. Let's get this baby done. If it's something that needs to be done by the end of the day, whatever it is, okay? You're focused and you're attending, but some of you are so irritable, either when you're on the medicine and it's at its peak effectiveness for you, or when you're coming off the medicine, right? So then, the patience, the kindness, the goodness, the gentleness, all the things that you want to save for the people in your life, for your staff, for your coworkers, for your friends, for your spouses, for your children, they're all gone. They're all fumes, right? All they get is irritability because you're coming off of a medicine, right? You're skidding across the tarmac on fire, right? Or you're getting a bunch of stuff done and you're so intense and so irritable that you can't afford to be bothered because you're working on a super important Excel spreadsheet. And this is nothing against Excel spreadsheet people. Okay. You do you, but I'm just saying, sometimes you're so irritable that even though you're getting stuff done, you're intolerable. I was intolerable. I mean, yeah, I was good. I'm generally good natured. And so you kind of buffer it out, but there were times in my day when I would just get mad. And I'm getting overly angry about what? About a knock on my door, or I would get overly excitable, right? So people would come in. I remember one time I'm doing some work. I have headphones on. I can't see people behind me. And one of my coworkers came in and brought a piece of paper to me or something, and I freaked out. Like I almost jumped through the ceiling tiles because I was so startled, because the dopamine and the norepinephrine in my brain, which again is another video. If you don't know how these medications work, I can link those all below and above and all the places. But you got so much dopamine and norepinephrine pulsing through your brain that you've got dopamine, which is, the pleasure hormone. You're focused, you're on track. But then you got norepinephrine, which is your fight or flight. Okay. So man, I mean, you get people and they pop into your purview and it scares you. Right. And it's one thing to being focused to getting stuff done, but it's another thing to be super irritable and excitable, right? Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that. Let's put up a question. My friend, Dennis, man, it's so good to hear from you. Let's see. If someone becomes irritable on Dexedrine, would adding Risperdal help? Ooh, Dennis, this is juicy. This is a good question. Man, thanks so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to hear from you. Okay, let's talk about it. In general, as a physician, we all have our different philosophies. I'm a zero medicine for zero people guy. But as I've said a bunch of times, I prescribe them. Absolutely, I do, because I do think there's situations when they're useful. But as a general rule, if you're prescribing a medication to manage the side effect of a medication, you're kind of digging your own hole there. Okay. And I want to be fair, Dennis. This happens all the time. It happens all the time. And even though I don't like it, I do it. So before we get to Risperdal, okay, which we're going to talk about, that's a great question. And that's not my favorite medicine here. But if I've got an individual who's having some irritability as the medicine wears off, so at the end of the day, as the plane is coming down, sometimes with the kids or even with adults, we'll add a medication that's, there's a few different ones we'll use here. Sometimes if it's a long-acting medication, it's wearing off, right, as the plane is landing, but we need a little bit more benefit. Okay, I'll do it this way. You can kind of see. So we got a long-acting medicine and it's wearing off 3, 4, 5 o'clock. But you're like, you know what? I've got to stay on track because I got some evening meetings and blah, blah, blah as an adult. Sometimes what we'll do is we'll use a long-acting medicine for the morning. It wears off 3 or 4 o'clock. We'll boost you with a short-acting medication. So long-acting Incerta, short-acting Ritalin, and then bing, we go right back up again. But you're still going to crash. But your crash got pushed back. Okay. So it's going to be 7, 8 o'clock instead of 4 or 5 o'clock. Okay. Sometimes we do that. Let's get to your Risperdal question because it's a great one. Sometimes what we'll do to pad the landing, okay, we'll run out onto the tarmac because we can see the plane's coming in. The landing gear's not coming down. We're like, well, we better do some stuff. So let's go throw some pillows on the runway and hope for the best. So we'll throw some pillows on the runway, and those pillows are things like alpha agonists. So think about things like clonidine or 10X. I usually use 10X, which is also known as Quanfacine. Okay. Alpha agonists, these are blood pressure medicines. Okay. Now, Risperdal, I know I promised Dennis, I'm going to get there. Risperdal is what's typically understood as an atypical antipsychotic. Okay. Now, you've been on enough of these to know, hopefully, you know, I'm probably not in love with Risperdal, but it does have a place. I almost never use it to deal with the irritability that comes from coming off of an ADHD medication, because that would be like taking an Apache helicopter and going and flying in that helicopter to get groceries, right? You could just take my Toyota Sienna, 2014. It's glorious. 200,000 miles. I love it. I would rather take the minivan and use something like clonidine or 10X to help with that irritability at the end of the day, rather than put in place a second generation atypical antipsychotic like Risperdal, which again is like taking an Apache helicopter to get around town. That's a big intervention. But Dennis, to be fair, some people have a lot of different moving parts. Sometimes there's a lot of mood instability. It's not just ADHD. There's some oppositional behaviors. There's some mood dysregulation. There's some aggression and outburst behaviors. Sometimes those individuals benefit from both a stimulant medication, like an ADHD medication, in addition to Risperdal. So does it have a place? Yes. Is it my preferred intervention? No, because it's heavy. Risperdal is heavy. There's a lot of things that go into Risperdal. We should do a live stream on that next. If you think that would be a good one, you want to talk more about atypical antipsychotics and how they fit in with behavioral management, Dennis, you let me know. We'll get her done. Thank you so much for that comment. So here's a picture of irritability, man. This is me. Look at how mad that guy is. I was so mad, Dennis. I was so mad, right? That was me. Okay. So let's keep going. Let me keep going. Thanks for the question, Dennis. Let's talk about my next reason, okay, for quitting ADHD medications. And it was withdrawal. Okay. Let's look at a picture. Look at that guy. Look at how sad that guy is. That guy's not in a good spot. Listen, I didn't like the withdrawal. Let me explain what I mean. Not everybody are people persons. People. Okay. Like not everybody's going to go. You've heard the analogy of, the extrovert is the person who goes through the day, and the more interactions they have, it's like they get more coins. And at the end of the day, they have more coins in their cup and they're filled up. I'm an introvert. Okay. So I start my day alone with 5 coins. And every time I have to interact with people, I have to give them one. And then by about 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm out of coins, right? I'm done. Not everybody, right, is fueled by being around people. Some people are naturally withdrawn, and that's okay. But what I want you to understand is even the most extroverted person, right, or can still experience a level of social emotional withdrawal. Why? Because when you are on track, when your brain is fully online, okay, and you're getting stuff done, are you like, going over reruns from Seinfeld at the water cooler all morning long with your coworkers? Nope. You're getting stuff done, right? You are on track. You are in your office, you're in your cubicle, you're in your basement. You are getting it done. It's like those montages, when the hero's thrown in a gulag prison or something, and then they just do a bunch of push-ups and sit-ups by themselves, and there's like this exciting music. Like, that's you. That guy in the gulag prison, when you're fully functional and you're on track, I got to tell you, you're not making friends and influencing people. You are getting stuff done, right? So you get this withdrawal. Now, to be fair, maybe withdrawal for some of us is good. Maybe we do need to spend some time. If you're me, like if you're an extroverted person, maybe you need to spend some time chilling out in an arbitrary cold lake, by this like ice cooler. I don't know where this guy is. But maybe some of us need that withdrawal. Maybe that's where we get the benefit from these medications. But there's got to be a line in the sand, because as I've said earlier, not everyone deserves this withdrawal. Your coworkers deserve you, okay? You're probably some of you are thinking, yeah, they deserve me, all right, because maybe you don't get along with them. But listen, I'm a firm believer in the innate value and worth of all people, okay? Absolutely, and I know you are too. Your coworkers will benefit from you, from being in and amongst and taking a break and listening to them and giving them some thoughts and some encouragement and reminding them that even on our worst day, you're still doing the best you can. You're still a good mom or a good dad. You're still doing the best you can. Like, life is hard. It's heavy, right? The lingua franca of human experience is pain and suffering. Like, this is a hard existence that we have, and we're in it together. So your family deserves to have you when you come home. Your coworkers deserve it. Your loved ones deserve it. People deserve to see you in and amongst. So for me, it was easy for me to step away from ADHD medications because I didn't like the mandatory forced quiet hours of withdrawal. There's times when you have to be interactive with people, and I didn't like feeling like a medication got to dictate that for me. Sustainability. That was the next reason. I think there's only 6 of these. Okay, we're almost done with it. Sustainability was the next reason that I quit these medications. Okay, now look at this. This is a picture of me from a couple of days ago. Like an idiot, I dressed up like a pro wrestler and decided to run a 5K. I'm 47 years old. I mean, I couldn't walk. I think I just started walking without a limp like yesterday. Okay. But the reason that I show that picture and the reason I'm talking to you about sustainability is because, like a lot of us, I started out too fast because there's a bunch of like high schoolers with no shirts on or running super fast. I'm like, I'm going to keep up with these guys. I thought I was going to die. I mean, I thought there was a point in the journey where I thought I was going to die. Sometimes when we think about our journey, whether it's health or work or relationships, or in this case, medications, the question we got to ask ourselves is, how sustainable is this for me? How sustainable is this? I'm on a medicine. I'm going to the pharmacy every 30 days. I'm barely gaining any weight, which again, who cares? This isn't about how you look. It's about how you feel. For me, I felt very unhealthy with my weight. I just felt gross. I felt super unhealthy. I felt like my bones were brittle, right? I didn't like feeling withdrawn. I didn't like feeling excitable and irritable. I didn't like going to the pharmacy. I didn't like feeling like I was dependent on these medications, right? So for me, I had to zoom out and say, yes, running a medical clinic or whatever you do, whatever job you do, okay, I'm willing to wager that if you're doing it right now, if you're doing it, I bet there's a way you could still do that job without a medicine. Don't throw a beer can at me because it's your computer screen anyways. That's on you. But I know how that sounds. I know how that sounds, and I get it. Some people are really, really impaired. And I don't mean to make light of it. I treat kids who are impaired all day. I know what it's like to feel like you're going to fail in your relationships and fail in your jobs. And some of you do need to stay on a medicine for sure, because you're just not able to be functional on it. But what I want also is to open up a dialogue on the other side of this to encourage and admonish and invite those of you who are on the fence to say, you know what, maybe you could do it without. Maybe you could do it without. Some of you can't, and I get that. And I'm not talking down to you, but I think some people can, and they need to be invited to try. For me, I quit because I couldn't keep up with those runners in the 5K and I could barely walk. I couldn't keep up with all the side effects and all the nuances and all the withdrawal and all the stuff. And I just said, you know what? If I fail at what I'm doing, I fail. Now, to be fair, there's certain things you can't fail at, right? Nobody wants you to fail at being a mom or a dad. Nobody wants to see you fail at being a spouse or a loved one or a good friend. Nobody wants to see that. So you have to make your choices on your own. But for some of you, maybe you can stop this. Maybe you can stop. Okay. Now let's talk about how. Okay, here's the how. We're almost done with this, but I do want to spend a little time talking about how. All I can do is speak from my own experience. Okay. How I quit. I'm going to show you. This is how I did it. Right here. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yep. For me, I did it straight up cold turkey. Now, I'm a doctor, but I'm not your doctor. This is the disclaimer part, okay? People, when they quit these medicines, can feel really crappy. Sometimes their mood can go down if you're struggling with anxiety or depression and you're just like, well, I'm just going to go cold turkey because I watched some guy on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. That's not advisable, okay? I'm a doctor. I'm not your doctor. This is not a doctor visit. You need to talk to your primary care provider, your prescribing provider. But in general, understand that ADHD medications can be discontinued, okay? The biggest problems that people run into, for me, when I quit, I was taking Adderall XR, like 40 milligrams at the time that I quit, but I've been on like Vyvanse and Concerta and short-acting Ritalin. I've been on a bunch of them. What I struggled with when I quit, and I quit abruptly, which I'm not advising, that's not advice to you. This is my story, okay? I became really, really tired. Oh, it was so hard to get out of bed. It was so hard to move. It was so hard to do anything. I came home and I was going to bed at 7, 8 o'clock, 6:30 sometimes. For a week that happened, okay? And the reason, and I think that was an extreme example. I don't think that's for everybody. We discontinue medications abruptly in my clinic when we have to. And I know that I was recently sat in on a lecture where, that people do this, and this is things people do this, okay? But I'm not advising that you watch this video and go quit your medicines. You talk to your doctor about that. But for me, I quit. Okay. And I quit cold turkey and I struggled for a week. I mean, I was like that sloth in Zootopia. The one, remember the one who's like, bleh. I was like that. Okay. But then here's the reason why I want to make this video. Here's why I want to talk to you, because it went away. Right? People quit medicines. And what they do is they say, oh my goodness, I can never quit a medicine. I can never quit. I can never quit a medicine because for the first 48 hours, things went poorly. And I'm going to say you because I care about you and I'm making these videos because I want you to get this information. Look, of course they went poorly. Of course they did. That's okay. You're going to struggle and it didn't feel good and things could have been better. I get it. But it doesn't mean you have to go back on a medicine right away. Give it time. Give it time. Work with your provider. Use common sense, okay? Know that these medications prop you up, right? They activate your dopamine and your norepinephrine, so they hold you up pharmacologically. So you can operate on less sleep, right? You can operate on less food. You can operate on less everything and still be pretty efficient. And when you discontinue these medications, you're eating a bagel every 15 minutes, right? You're falling asleep at your desk for a while and you're wondering how you're ever going to get through this. But what I want you to understand is you will. 7 days after I quit taking Adderall, 7 days, I started to see the light shine again in my life. And I know that's a hefty price to pay, but I'm like you. I'm busy like you. I had 4 kids. I'm married. I was running a medical clinic at the time. Like it was hard, and it's going to be hard for you too. Okay. But listen, if 5 to 7, 3, 5 days, something like that, it depends on you. If that means you can get on the other side of this and say goodbye to the things that we've discussed so far, you can stand upright, you can get moving in the right direction, you start exercising more, you start eating healthy, you start doing the things that you need to do to stay on track. I promise you it's worth it. I promise you. Now listen, are there days when I'm like, whoo, I got piles of paper everywhere and I got the taxes and bills and blah, that I think I should go see my doctor and get back on an ADHD medicine? 100%. There are days when I think about that, right? And then I think back to the way I think about that scarecrow picture I showed you earlier, where I'm dressed like somebody who woke up on the floor of the Gap or on the floor of Banana Republic with no clothes on. I'm like, do I want to be that guy? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy who's angry and irritable just so I can be super effective in my whatever, right? Let's see what Dennis has to say. I quit nicotine cold turkey. Dennis, That's awesome. I mean, you want to talk about a hard thing, my man. Good for you. That's awesome. Yep. For about a week. Okay. Dependency on any drug for peak performance is a bad idea, but I know plenty of people do it. Oh man. I got it. Look at him. Now you're correcting this. Dennis, you're fantastic. Thank you for your comments. But listen, Dennis brings up a really good point. People do this with nicotine, and I would suggest to you, I've not been addicted to that, Dennis, but I know certainly my belief system and what I understand about that. That is a difficult thing to quit. And there's really, there's a lot of different ways to do it, but yep, cold turkey, man. And you bite the bullet for 7 to 10 days, and on the other side of it is freedom. And that's what I'm talking about. Again, I can't say this enough, because on YouTube, people will scroll halfway through this and they'll think that I'm trying to say medicines are bad. They're not bad. They're not. These medicines changed my life. I mean, I was able to get done things that I'd never been done, but that was the season that I was in. And if you're not in the season that led you to start an ADHD medication, if you're not in that season and you're in a different season that might be more manageable, maybe stop. Maybe talk to your doctor, maybe take a break. I just want people to be free. I want people to be treated when they're impaired. And when they're not in a season of impairment, I want them to be free. I want them to be free. I wouldn't go back. I would not go back, even though there's days and I'm like, well, maybe I should. I'm kind of doing terrible. But sometimes I'm doing terrible because I'm doing dumb stuff. I'm staying up too late. I'm caught in a death scroll on Instagram. I'm doing a bunch of dumb stuff that doesn't matter. And then I'm like, well, I need to get back on my ADHD medicine. Yeah, or you could just sleep 8 hours a day and stop saying yes to everything. That's a whole nother topic. But if you got ADHD and your dopamine and norepinephrine are being manipulated by medications, then there is a dopaminergic surge that your brain needs to be functional. And another way to get that? Say yes to everything. You get a little bump. You get a little dopamine, like, yeah, I'm a good person. I'm doing great. These people. And then you don't get any of it done. And they get buried with other people's expectations, right? And their email needs that you have, and you never get your tasks done because you're doing everybody else's. That's a whole nother thing we should talk about. But my point is, maybe stop doing that stuff. Stop saying yes. Start saying, oh, no. Start saying no, or no, thank you is my favorite one. I go, no, thank you. No, thank you. Right? It's okay to do that. So sometimes it's not that you need to go back on a medication. It's that you just need to make better choices. Make going back on a medication the last thing you do. Okay. Let's talk about this topic. How do I live now? How do I live now? I mean, here's me blabbing to you, blah, 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 about why I got off of medicine and all these things. But I mean, I still have tasks. You still have tasks. Children still need things. Your spouses deserve the best from you. We still have to pay attention when we drive cars and watch movies and have conversations and go to meetings. Those tasks don't go away, but how we think about ourselves and the narrative that we choose to shake hands with, that can change. And I want to talk to you just very briefly about how I live. I chose to drop the disorder from ADHD. What does ADHD stand for? Attention Deficit Hyperactivity. Say it with me. Disorder. Okay. There was a season of my life when ADHD led to the disorder, right? I was struggling, blah, blah, blah. Again, I've told that story elsewhere. And there's seasons of your life when the same is true for you. But that's because it was like a cattle chute. Things got really narrow, or as a bottleneck, right? It was a season when you had a bunch of stuff done at work, or you were going through a bunch of stuff emotionally, and you just couldn't get yourself on track. Give yourself grace. Give yourself a break and know that going on a medication for those seasons is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But what I want you to understand is there are seasons when you're in the cattle chute, when you're in the bottleneck, and then you come out the other side of it. You come out the other side of it. Am I sitting in a classroom 8 hours a day and studying 12 hours a day or whatever I was doing in medical school? No, I'm not. Now I'm having conversations with you fine people, and then going in and out of rooms and going into meetings and having big ideas. 95% of them don't work at all and sound absolutely ridiculous, but 5% of them are amazing. right? There's that 5% that's like, yep, that could do some stuff. That's good stuff, right? If you are no longer in a season of impairment, then it's okay to have an A and a D and an H. Attention deficit, hyperactivity, impulsivity, inattention. That's fine. But you can drop the disorder. You don't need to have the disorder, and you can embrace your superpower. Oh my goodness, this is a bit of a cliche. Okay, I get it. Fine. It's a bit of a cliche, but I wouldn't trade. I would not trade my brain and the way it works for anything, and you shouldn't either. All right. You bring things to the table that nobody else brings. You have 6 or 8 different windows opened up in your brain, and all you hear from people is, well, you have a lot of good ideas, but not a lot of follow through. Okay, you know what? That's a lot of people. All right. But you know where my superpower comes in? When I drop the disorder part of this and I embrace the fact that my brain works, right? I have 6 or 8 different windows up all the time. And 95% of what I say doesn't help and doesn't make sense. But 5%, the 5% could change everything, because my brain, your brain, is willing to take an off ramp every once in a while and not have a business suit on with an attache case and say, well, what's the priorities for this meeting and blah, blah, blah. And here's some to-do lists and la, 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 la. Listen, sometimes you need a lateral thinker. All right. Because if you don't have a lateral thinker, you're only linear, right? A playground is no fun if you can only move front to back. But what about people who want to move side to side and go up and down? Those people are interesting. Those are the people that are going to bring the ideas to the table that are going to change things. But you have to be okay with 95% of the ideas changing nothing, and you're never going to follow through on them, and they're just ideas. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay to beat the idea up. Give yourself a break and embrace your superpower. If there's more you want to hear on this topic, more about medications, more about supplemental medications, more about how to live your life, how I organize my day, what are things that I do, what are books that I would read, things that I've done, I am happy to provide that for you. Put those in the comments below and I will address them. I want to sincerely thank you all for your time, energy, and resources. You got better places to be and you got better people to spend it with, but you chose to spend it with me, and I want to thank you for that. So with that, I'm going to end this stream with some 80s music, and we're going to live our life together moving forward. Drop the disorder. Get out there. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your time.